The midbrain. Located between the hindbrain and the forebrain nervous systems, ascend and descend to connect higher and lower parts of the brain. Relays between eyes and ears. The hindbrain. Located near the skull, lowest portion of the brain consisting of the medulla, the cerebellum, and pons. The cognitive neuroscience. A field that links cognitive processes with a neural base. Glial cells. Glial cells. Provide support, nutritional benefits, and keep the brain running smoothly. The pit crew. Neurons. Nerve cells that handle the info processing system. Mirror neurons. Activated when we perform an action, when we watch another activity. Respond to both kinds of input. The endocrine system. A set of glands that regulate activities of certain organs by releasing their chemical products into the bloodstream. Glands. Organs or tissues in the body that create chemicals that control many bodily functions. Hormones. Chemical messengers produced by endocrine system glands and carried by the bloodstream to all parts of the body. The pancreas. A dual-purpose gland under the stomach that performs both digestive and endocrine functions, produces insulin. The pituitary gland. A pea-sized gland below the hypothalamus, controlling growth and regulating other glands. The adrenal glands. Glands at the top of each kidney that regulate mood, energy level, and the ability to cope with stress. Brain lesioning. Used technique on animals, cutting out pieces of the brain tissue to see how the body adapts to the disruption. Electroencephalograph, the EEG. Records brain electrical activity, single unit recording, thin probe inserted near an individual neuron. Needle on a piece of paper. Computerized axial tomography, or the CAT scan. 3D image obtained from X-rays. The positron emission tomography, or the PET scan. Measures amount of glucose in various areas of the brain, traces the brain's activity levels, watches the brain at work. The MRI, the magnetic resonance imaging, uses radio waves to construct images of a person's tissues and biochemical activities. Better soft tissue image than a CAT scan, can be flat or 3D also. The fMRI, or the functional MRI, lets scientists see what is happening in the brain while it's working. The transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS, allows you to examine neural function after traumatic events, uses rapidly changing magnetic field to induce brief electrical current pulses in the brain, which trigger action potential in neurons. Serotonin. Regulation of sleep, mood, attention, learning. 15 types of receptors. Endorphins. stimulate neurons, feel pleasure, shield body from pain. Example, a long-distance runner. All or nothing principle. Once the electrical impulse reaches a certain level of intensity, the threshold, it fires and moves all the way down the axon without losing any intensity. The corpus callosum. The large bundle of axons that connect the brain's two hemispheres, responsible for relaying info between the two sides. Collateral sprouting. The process by which axons of some healthy neurons eject to damaged cells, grow new branches. Substitution of function. The process which damaged region's function is taken over by another area of the brain, or areas of the brain. Neurogenesis. The process by which new neurons are created. Cell body. Part of the neuron containing the nucleus. Directs the manufacture of substances that the neuron needs for growth and maintenance. Dendrites. Tree-like fibers projecting from the neuron which receive info and orient toward the cell body. Axon. Part of the neuron taking info away from the cell body to other cells. Myelin sheath. Layer of fat cells that encases and insulates axons, making transmission quicker. Synapses. The gaps between neurons. They lie between axons and dendrites. Neurotransmitters. Chemical substances stored in tiny sacs within terminal buttons called vesicles. And the terminal buttons are at the end of the axon. The sacs are called vesicles. Brainstem. Includes most of the hindbrain, excludes the cerebellum, and the midbrain. It connects with spinal cord and extends upward to encase reticular formation in midbrain. The medulla. Governs breathing and reflexes. Pons. Governs sleep and arousal. Cerebellum. Governs motor coordination, leg and arm, integrates muscular activity, smooth movement. Association cortex, 75% of the cerebral cortex. The region of the cerebral cortex that cites the highest intellectual functions, like thinking and problem solving. The motor cortex. In the cerebral cortex, processes info about voluntary movements located just behind the frontal lobes. Biological approach. Neuroscience, the study of structure, function, development, genetics, and biochemistry of the nervous system. Sociocultural approach. Examines the way social and cultural environments influence behavior. The evolutionary approach. Centered on adaptation, reproduction, or natural selection. It's controversial. Meta-analysis. Meta-analysis. A method that allows researchers to combine the results of several different studies on a similar topic in order to establish the strength of an effect. Correlation research examines the relations between variables with the purpose of determining whether and how two variables change together. Descriptive research determines the basic dimensions of a phenomenon, defining what is, how often it occurs, and so on. Methods: observation, surveys, interviews, case studies. Adaptation: a genetic mutation that helps in reproduction and survival.